everyone for joining. I had it slightly earlier than our normal time. We have a presentation from Turk Telecom today, and then that will take the first half hour, and then we'll move into the OpenOMCI discussion. And a reminder to everyone, we are recording this session so it can be posted to the Volta playlist after the meeting. So thank you everyone, and thank you Turk Telecom for attending to give us your presentation today.
Okay, thank you, Julie. So should I start?
Yes, please.
Okay. So we did this presentation actually last week, but I guess that most of the people are not familiar with this one, so I'll go over again. We are going to talk about our Volta roadmap, and we will do a quick, brief presentation of Turk Telecom while doing, and why we choose Volta. Those are the topics actually that we are going to talk about, and it will be a brief presentation, so I hope I won't bore you. Turk Telecom is the company actually has also, Turk Telecom is the core company, but also has the 5 other group companies in it. As you can see on the page, the Turk Telecom International, Argela, ANOVA, Assist, and Sebit, they all have their own expertise on different subjects. Here I can say the Argela is for this presentation is the most important one, because we are working with them on this Volta subject, and we are giving both on fixed and mobile services on our network. We can say that we are a big company. As the customer side, you can see that mobile customers are around 20 million mobile customers, and total fixed broadband customers are 10 million. Also, we are giving all of the services like voice, IPTV in such different ways, like satellite also. And also we are giving the corporate services in our structure, and we have like 52K kilometer fiber infrastructure. So the traffic keeps increasing, like all of the globe does. So the needs are getting much higher for the high bandwidth sites, and we did some analysis with the which are actually the own our infrastructure with the network, and we did this SWOT analysis, and as well as SWOT analysis, we did a kind of a spider analysis that you can see on the page. You already know most probably the SWOT of the PON. It's high bandwidth, it doesn't affect by the distance, it's future-proof, it's passive infrastructure, but it has some weak sides also. It's not like interoperability, and it's hard to swap when you go to the customer side. You are giving the ONTs, and you can just change easily, like you do the DSL or etc. the other technologies. And the right-hand side, you can see that we did some spider analysis, which has 9 topics in there, different topics like distance, future-proof, Capex, CPE, ease of deployment, maturity, OPEX, cost per megabit. And for the spider analysis, when you go outer of the circle, it means better. So as you can see for the FTTH ONTs, it seems to be better for our network infrastructure, and therefore the Turk Telecom primary strategy is currently PON strategy, and we are deploying PON sites more and more in every day. So
And then we can say it's GPON, right?
Yeah. That's what I was going to say right now. It's actually the GPON, not XGPON, not XGS-PON, not NGPON right now. GPON, since it's a much more cost-efficient way to do so, and it's what we think for the residential use. Actually, maybe for the mobile backhaul it changes, but for the residential use, it seems to be more than enough for GPON. For the near future, I guess. So here you can see the current GPON topology of ours, like the access sites and the MPLS sites, IP MPLS site. It's basically layer 2, layer 3 MPLS based infrastructure, and we are giving HSI, IPTV, VoIP services on our infrastructure to customers like this, but also we are managing our OLTs, and each vendor means different OLT management, different VLAN. It's maybe harder to use it, I don't know, but which leads us to for the Volta case. Actually, we need vendor independency, we need service chaining and automation. So as you can see for the NMS sites, when you try to add a new vendor, it means new integration, new VLAN management, new operators, human operators are going in. And we hope actually the Volta would be some kind of solution to this problem actually. Even though that we have these opinions, what we have is our provisioning times are and the integration system. We believe it's one of our strengths side. So we have some question marks on service chaining and automation will be the driver of Volta for Turk Telecom or not. We are not sure. Maybe it will be more clear after we do the POC tests. I don't know. But having
Jamel,
yeah.
Sorry, I interrupt you. So I'm looking this time on this diagram. So on your, because on your VoIP implementation, right? So the VoIP, you actually have a separate voice VLAN. So basically, from the ONT, you need to basically support the separate VLAN from the internet traffic, right?
Yeah, currently we are doing that. That's one of the cases is just we are using QoS end-to-end QoS, and we have actually layer 2 network mostly. It's the easiest way to do with VLANs. With having separate VLAN, voice VLAN, we are just using separate P-bits on it, and it's just
okay. So you use the okay. So basically it is the VoIP, because the reason why I ask, we do have some cases, at least in the legacy GPON, the VoIP actually writing on a separate VLAN, and then terminate in the voice gateway and then utilize the GR303. But you're using the IMS system here, so I think your case is not using GR303. Okay, so that is clear. Good, thanks.
Okay. Anybody having any questions, please interrupt me also. So I'm just going over for our Volta project status. We actually get the EdgeCore equipments for OLT, and we also got the trellis equipments also from EdgeCore, and we are working, like I said earlier, with Argela on this project. We started to do deploy actually the lab deployment. We are starting to do these lab deployments, and hopefully we will start to do the POC testing starting in this month, I guess. in February. What we are curious about here, and you will see in the upcoming slide about the P4 fabric, and we have some questions about that one. So I'm going over to, like I said, it will be it's a short presentation since we want to talk more about our expectations and questions with you, and we want to hear from you. So here you can see our expectations from Volta, and we have some questions about it also. For now, what we see, the chipset, we don't have maybe the vendor lock-in, but we have some dependency with chipsets, which is Broadcom currently for the open source community. The first question is, what are your actually ideas about this question, the chipset dependency? What do you think? Will it be only the Broadcom, or will there be will Broadcom be just a reference architecture or something like that? So everybody will use that architecture, because there are too low actually the number of the ONTs right now based on the Broadcom reference design are too low actually. So which is, for what I know, is currently some EdgeCore Broadcom did with them. Also TNW, I guess, used that design also, but currently not too many the alpha networks, I guess. So this is the first question. What do you think about it?
Okay, so on the chipset, so the community, if you guys have any comment, please feel free to chime in. So we do the original Volta started because the Broadcom Maple B0 was the basis reference design and as part of the initial project. In some way is, because the Broadcom they create a BAL layer, they open up the API call into the BAL. So I guess to just the long story short, we think that framework is easy to work with within the current infrastructure, but right now the adapter, the Kim from Redis, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the adapter right now is target for the XGS PON, so it's 10 gig PON, right? So I don't know whether if we want to have a GPON deployment. I know the Maple B0 will support the GPON implementation also, but I don't know whether that will be require different adapter or not. Kim, do you know the answer for that?
Well, the current EdgeCore platform is a XGS PON design, so it's all set up with the hardware for for that mode only. So if there was a variant of that would work with BAL through in a GPON configuration, a lot of the work is reusable there. The fact is there just isn't, that's the only design that's ODM design that's out there right now that that we can leverage with. But that was kind of the rationale on that with the BAL abstraction. It's not really technology dependent below that. So
yeah, but again, these adapters can be written against BAL. They can be written against other things. So I don't think we are bound in any way by a given vendor chipset. It's just the amount of work you would have to do to support that chipset would be the issue. You'd have, if it was a chipset that didn't comply with kind of the adapters we have today, an adapter would have to be written for it. that would be the requirement, I would think.
Right, and so what I'm trying to say is, and then we also have Broadcom on the call right now if they want to chime in also. So the current and the Volta started has, so we have the EPON which is using the Tibet the solution, and then we also, at least on the initial Volta, also have the Celestica GPON solution. So if you go to the Volta repo, you actually can see the adapter there, and we also have the Atran and McKeon and Capex. They also all have developed their adapter during the 1.1 time frame, and probably even 1.2 update also have some information there. So, but as I said, it's all based on the XGS PON technology to develop that. But I believe the only GPON solution today we have with Volta is the Celestica. The initial adapter created by Ali from ONF, that one has not been verified whether it work with the existing framework or not. But Telefonica from Spain, they contribute their own implementation or development of the Celestica adapter, which has been contributed. So right now we are in the initial process trying to see how we can incorporate that contribution into the Volta framework. So on the chipset, I would like to say is there are different variants of the chip currently supported by the Volta. There will be a new proposal coming in probably in this quarter or second quarter, is the FPGA-based OCP design. I think they are trying to see whether they can provide resources and then create the implementation of the OCP based on FPGA chip. So I don't know, Jamel, whether we answer your question. So the Volta framework, the chipset dependency, basically, I chime in again. No, there's no chipset dependency. It's all how it depends on whether the chipset software can interact with the Volta, and can be abstracted into the Volta. So there shouldn't be any dependency for Volta to support anything other than Broadcom.
Hey Sean, this is Jim McKeon from Broadcom. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Just to chime in quickly on that, we are working to bring a GPON-based platform to market based upon the Maple. It's not with our partners, of course, but I expect we'll see that come out sometime in the first half of this year. We haven't finalized the design yet, but it is in progress. So if that helps, strengthen the ecosystem, just wanted to let you know that. And I would also echo your comments about the lack of a vendor dependency here. Of course, we've taken the effort to create the BAL and provide it to the community, but there's nothing preventing someone else from doing the same thing.
So Jamel, have we answered your question?
The final answer, actually, we got also the other question for the chip on site, and thank you for that.
And you mentioned about the ONU.
I can actually add some other question here for you. you're working since for right now the XGS-PON side. So where do you want to use that Volta? Like maybe coexistence with the GPON on same fiber with the coexistence elements, or will you be using just as a separate network, or where do you put Volta right now with the XGS-PON? Can I ask that one?
Can you ask that question again? Sorry, because
okay. You can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you are focusing on the XGS-PON, right?
Correct.
So
for AT&T, yes.
Yeah. Actually, this question is directly to you. For the XGS-PON, why do you want the XGS-PON? Actually, is the basic question. But to make it more specific, will you be using Volta with coexistence elements on the same fiber with the GPON, or do you have already have the XGS-PON infrastructure? Why do you want the XGS-PON? Maybe you want to use as Volta as the mobile backhaul. Can you give some hints about it?
You're asking about AT&T's position.
Because like I said it earlier, the GPON side is currently seems to be okay for us, but maybe we are going a misdirection, and maybe it's better hearing from you about this strategy.
In some way, I prefer to talk to you one-to-one on that one.
I'm looking forward to talk to you then.
But I think I think in general the goal for AT&T, because we do have a legacy GPON solution, and we definitely interested. We want to put in more investment, because AT&T, the whole trend is trying to virtualize our core and the access network. So the virtualization of the access network right now, I think the rationale is, if we want to sort of introduce a new network, so why go back to the GPON, right? So XGS-PON is definitely so we want to use a new servers to be on to come. Basically, we want to introduce a new technology with the new servers. And into the new direction we're taking for the virtualization of the network. So AT&T decided to use XGS-PON, and we really liked the bandwidth of the what XGS-PON can provide, and so the current goal is, I think this is very open to everybody, is we are looking for XGS-PON and beyond. AT&T is working on the FSAN on the 25 gig the standard also, and also 40 gig in going forward. So the what am I trying to say here? Our initial implementation will be on the consumer market. In the United States, I think the bandwidth war is getting higher and higher. So I think XGS-PON will be our way to jump up into the next phase. Regarding to the backhaul, we are looking into those also, but there are some time delay challenges. We are also trying to see whether using the PON in general as a backhaul, whether we want to address that study first before we plan anything. So I think for the launch and for the time to launch of this new technology, so our focus is for the consumer to get started with.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, no,
But I think we definitely AT&T and DT and Turk Telecom and other. One other thing I do want to the Manuel from Deutsche Telekom also mentioned we probably do need to have a operator only meeting also, so we can and then we tried to do that last year, but it wasn't very successful. So I think with more participants right now, well, by the way, welcome Turk Telecom into this family. With few involvement and then Telefonica involvement, we do have a much stronger, I would say, much bigger market for example, to get the community involvement. So I think we're going to propose to have the service provider only meeting, and then we will engage with other community later once a service provider has some consensus and then the agreement on the direction we're taking. So that I think that is, but I will go back to you, Jamel. There's what other questions do you have, or what other Volta expectation the Turk Telecom would have from this community?
Okay, before I proceed, I want to say this. The question is for our side, the XGS-PON optics cost actually. That's what worries us actually. That was also, yeah, of course the XGS-PON has much more benefits than the GPON side, but the cost side, what worries us, that was the actually why we asked this question. But thank you for the answer. For the legacy systems, okay, the integration and management solutions for the legacy systems. This also with this question actually are maybe we can sum up together. Do you think the Volta will be a separate network with all of the SDNization and NFV elements on there, and the Volta will work on there, and the legacy systems will work on the other side? Or is there any like?
I think most of the company I've talked to
integration with the older systems, like we already have with the ASUS provisioning system.
Yeah, maybe the IT cost can be very high. So I do believe as much we on the AT&T side, we do have, we have as I mentioned earlier with the community also, we have a vertical stack regarding from access to the access manager to the e-comp, right? So so we have, but above e-comp, the provisioning system, I think I don't want to make this as I think the existing a portion of the existing provisioning system will stay for a while because the investment already put in. I have to say I'm not quite sure regarding to how to what the northbound system would look like 5 years down the road. But for the initial deployment, we do want to make sure the new infrastructure will work with the existing system, so it will be least service impact. So, but I think there are more detailed information we can share with you guys during the one-to-one meeting. So I'm welcome for that discussion. But the AT&T direction is, we are going to integrate this Volta as part of our awesome strategy, right? So open source access manager, and then from that, above that, then there will be the ONAP and ECOM system. So the whole I would say ecosystem, we're heading toward that way. But the detailed discussion, I think we probably do need to have a separate discussion. Since this has been recorded, so just please allow me to be able to talk to you without the whole world hear about it.
Sean, from a coexistence perspective, just off the top of my head, from a Volta, from Volta's view, I'm not sure there'd be any. I mean, there'd be any impact there. I mean, you could have
right. That's right.
Because it's just an external wavelength mux to bring everything back on the same PON.
I think that. Yeah, I think we're back to that question, right? Whether we have GPON and then the XGS PON coexist. There's no reason why we can't, right? So the AT&T is very the C device is definitely something very interesting. So we are definitely looking into using this, the same fiber, same framework to deliver both, at least on the fiber side, right, to deliver the same GPON and XGS PON. So I think, Jamel, that was actually part of your first question about the coexistence, and the benefit also is for other company, if you want to deploy both technology, the Volta should support both of them, so that you can deploy the same the VOT software, and then you can go forward. You can deploy both GPON and XGS PON by the same controller. So I think that is the beauty of Volta. So Sean, I think we're speaking the same thing, right?
I think so.
Okay, Jamel.
Okay, actually, for the first GPON question was about the virtualized GPON, XGS PON site, and this one was about the legacy GPON site, but I guess we are okay with it. So for the next question is actually about P4 and VBNG on Volta. We actually seen something about the SDNization in Turk Telecom cases. So that's why we asked this one. And so what do you think about the P4 and VBNG? Also, then what will be the status of the Quagga?
I think the vote, at least other people can chime in. On the Volta side, the working, and also with the SDN controller, right? So right now the de facto the SDN controller for Volta is Donos, and the P4 and VBNG. I believe there's whether David, I don't think there's any impact, right? We are in the layer, so on the access side, the core, I mean, for the VSG or VBNG, the proof of, at least for VBNG, the proof of concept for the Volta has been working with them, whether they're part of the cord or they're outside the cord. Both in AT&T, the park, we actually using the Volta to instead of using VBNG, we're actually using our legacy BNG. So they all worked at this point. Whether there are additional tweaks, yes.
Yeah, right now, Cord, Jono is actively working on getting Volta integrated as part of Cord, kind of as a default thing, right? So when you deploy Cord, Volta will be there. So yeah, we're not going to be affected. Cord should be able to be deployed under multiple different fabrics, depending how a carrier wants to deploy it.
Right. So I think that the Volta, there shouldn't be any dependency, but but I think, but your concern, I think, is something we have to make sure we keep that. But I don't believe there will be a dependency. But whether P4 has been working with the Volta, I don't know about that. And you said the Quagga status. I actually, sorry, I don't know what Quagga is.
So we haven't. Again, I'm having a little trouble hearing. So P4, we haven't been actually using P4 in the Volta project.
No.
Right now, they're as part of the Mobile World Congress demo, they're extending or using P4 to implement a leaf spine fabric. That wouldn't affect Volta at all from that perspective. As long as the leaf spine fabric acts as a leaf spine fabric, it should be fine in terms of that. There is no plan right now to do anything with P4 at the Volta level. That makes I guess I'm having a little trouble hearing the question, so I don't know if that quite answered it or not.
So I guess the question, yeah, I have just trying to qualify the question a little bit more. I think there's two parts to the question, right? The first one is VBNG considered as a part of the Volta umbrella? That's one thing. And then the second one, I guess, is P4 considered to be something that Volta will ever consider in future? I mean, the question is asked both for P4 and VBNG working with Volta. I guess I'm trying to read that question as whether VBNG falls under the Volta umbrella. That's the first question to answer. Because right now it falls under the whole, the core solution umbrella, right? And the second question is, would we ever support P4 under the Volta umbrella, even for any devices that the Volta is managing today? As of now, there's no plan, but I guess these two, I'm just trying to understand if the question is this to answer that better, right? So maybe.
So right now, so Jamel, maybe this is something we need to refine and maybe work with you. I think service provider, we need to redefine this question together in some way. But for the Volta right now today, the VBNG function is not. We have not Okay, I think to go with Surisha's first impression is I think Volta right now we have not adapted VBNG functionality support on the Volta side. Would that be happening in the future if appropriate? Then there's no reason why we cannot discuss that. I do know the the Qumran chip right now from the Broadcom side. The Qumran definitely is capable regarding to doing a lot of VBNG functionality support. But whether we will have the Qumran function, the VBNG function on board as the on the white box or outside, that part will have not been determined yet.
And this is Julie. I'm just going to do a little time check here. We should probably pivot in about 5 minutes to give time for the OpenOMCI discussion.
Okay, actually not much to add to them, Julie, thank you, by the way. What we also need, maybe we'll talk about in detail in our some other meeting for this question, but for the next questions, I would like to also need some your help here. For the this question is actually essential for us, the Capex OPEX savings analysis, and how do you do that? Can you suggest a method for us to do some comparison with the maybe legacy systems? How do you do this? It would be perfect for us if you suggest some method about it. This is the first one. Also, we have maybe talked about the other ones, but I can say that you already know that maybe we already have 2 use cases, and we need your support about this. And that's what I'm going to say. Actually, I can conclude with that, and I'm hoping to hear you about the from you about the Capex and OPEX saving analysis method suggestion question.
Okay, I think yeah, the Capex or OPEX. I think that probably we will leave that to the service provider discussion. But you know, the analysis method, I've never done this myself. So if anybody in the community knows how to do it, but effectively doing this, let us know. Definitely, there are analysis being done, I think, from various service providers. So we can group together and try to see whether we can have a better model to establish on this one. Definitely, it's not as simple as just looking at the hardware software on the VOLT software and the Volta, and then plus the access and plus ONT, right? You have to consider the whole ecosystem. So that I think that yes, I think that thing needs to be addressed. And as a community, actually, if we have a method to help people, the potential community members, especially service provider, to have some information they can utilize to present internally to their management, I think that may not be a bad thing. But I don't know exactly as a community here how we can go forward with that. So Jamel, I think thank you very much for these questions. I think these are very, very some of them are technical related question, and some deployment related, and then definitely, you know, the Capex or OPEX analysis. I think that's actually very interesting to bring into this community. And then so I do appreciate your presentation. Do you expect the Volta community to come back to, I'm trying to figure out what's the action item after this talk, right? So right now, I think there are some information exchange, maybe on the service provider level. So that's something we can do offline. But anybody from the community, do you have any question or response to this, to Turk Telecom's, to Jamel's presentation? No? Okay. Jamel, do you have any question? Or have we do you feel like we have not responded? I mean, yeah, I put out a lot of response to the later time frame. But we definitely will keep out and working with you on to get these resolved. But do you have for the Volta community? Do you have any additional question?
Actually, not much, but the only thing that we are curious about right now is the final thing is that the OpenOMCI part of the next release, actually.
Okay.
That's what the rest of this call is for today, so hopefully that will answer some of your questions.
Right. So no, yeah, that's what after your presentation, we're going to give it to Chip to present the OMCI framework. But Jamel, I definitely would like to work with you, and then collecting your requirements and the use cases about what are you expecting Volta to support. But I think that's something you gave a very good introduction today, and just go back to the page 3. So you say the ANOVA is the company is mostly engaged with the Volta study today, or
no,
Argela?
Argela.
Agela. Okay.
Yes, research and development.
Okay, so Agela. So potentially any work Volta would need to work probably would directly involved with Agela. And is the Netsia part of the Agela company?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So Netsia is in the San Francisco Bay Area in the Silicon Valley. So that I definitely would like to give them a visit, and then we can have some face-to-face meeting if possible. So Jamel, thank you very much for the presentation. I welcome you to the community, and then I know this time frame may not be as convenient for the people for you guys in Turkey. We are trying to see whether we can move the meeting to the 7 just an hour earlier from the 8 o'clock Pacific time to 7 o'clock Pacific time. I have to go through the proposal with the community. Once that being approved, I think that will be maybe a little bit better time for you guys to also. And we do have some other participants from Taiwan too.
Sean,
yes?
Are we ready now to transfer to the OMCI portion?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, thank you, Jamel, for your presentation. And Chip, if you're ready, I'll give you presenting rights.
Yeah.
Chip, are you talking? Hello?
I can hear you, Sean. I can't hear anything else.
I can't hear Chip either, so I'm not sure if he's talking.
Chip? Hello? Let me send Philip a text. He was saying yeah, right? Briefly.
I just sent a chat message.
Yeah, I did the same. Okay, it looks like he's trying to reconnect to get the audio.
Hello?
Hi,
Okay.
Chip. You've got an echo.
Yeah.
But we can hear you now.
Okay, I have presentation rights on my laptop, but the audio's only receiving. And so I guess I'll speak on my Linux machine and drive on the laptop if that helps.
Well, that's the trouble solving way we like to see, right? So okay, great. No, we can hear you better now.
Yeah, it's a lot better than running to the next room. Let me shut the door behind me so we don't get loud noise. Okay, I'm sorry about the delay there. For this, if we want to, we can have as open discussion as we want, as you want to, as we go through the slides of what we have. But I've sent this out to the Volta Discuss so that if you want to see a copy of it later, it'll be available. It's on Google Docs. And during the 1.3, we talk about a set of features that we want to have for hopefully done by March. And this is the feature list that I had written down. I want to make sure that it probably matched up with everyone, and we can talk about any portion of this. I think we've already talked a lot about the OMCI frame generation and the communication channel. And before I went on vacation, I provided a write-up on how we're currently using that in the Adtran ONU on the Volta wiki page. So I guess before we go into any other features or actually maybe the rollout, are there any questions? Has people been able to review how that's used and what features it provides? Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Chip, this is Girish here. So I have integrated your framework to Broadcom ONU, and I'm able to do the initial synchronization. So
oh, okay.
I think, so I haven't given it a try, but I need to still, if you can give me some more time, probably I'll have some more comments on that.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, probably during Sprint 2 is when I'll probably actually want to check that into the main library, and we can of course do bug fixes or additional refactoring as people need it throughout. But I think we probably should have a fairly nice base class to it. And of course, we'll have to add extra frame capabilities like being able to send reset commands, for reboot, test commands and such. So I see some work still being needed on it, but mainly just feature additions.
And we also have Broadcom Samuel Chen. I think he's the expert on the ONU side. So, Sam, are you on? Okay, he's unmuting right now. So, Sam, if you see anything as your concern or anything, I will appreciate your input also. But
sure.
Chip, right now you use an example on the Adtran ONU and a Broadcom reference ONU, right?
For 1.3, it'd be nice to have both of those adapters available at the end of 1.3, and then of course anyone else who's able to port it to their environment.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things probably to note is probably just within the very first bullet is to have the OpenOMCI running as part of the ONU device handler. That's probably the only thing we can focus on, in this short time frame. But we might want to look at how we could maybe somehow pull this out into a separate container so that it does not have to be built into an ONU device handler. That could help facilitate both quicker bug fixes if there's any changes, as well as if a vendor other than AT&T has certain small specific things they want in their network for OMCI to perform. They can, of course, it's easier to do that in a separate container than as opposed to having every ONU go out and modify their code to support that.
So can you do me a favor to include that statement, right? So potentially the device handler, you're saying the OpenOMCI running as a separate container will be the final goal, right?
Yeah, if people see that as an advantage in the long run, I think it would help out just mainly so we decouple it from the ONUs as much as we can.
So if that's a true benefit, Sarita, sorry?
I'm sorry, go ahead, Sean. You finish up and then I can talk.
No, I was saying if that's I want the final preference to become part of to be has a suddenly blanked in my head. Indicated somewhere so we don't miss it. That's what I'm saying. Okay, good. Okay, fine. So Sarita, back to you.
Yeah, I'd like to see especially this running as a separate container, and also it's not completely clear to me. We are planning to move towards containerized adapters in probably 2.0. And in that time, it's definitely going to be running in a separate container. So I think during the lockdown, we did take an action to see what the external interfaces or the open interfaces would be, because if you're talking about this being interfaced to multiple ONU vendor adapters, then we need to have a reference API that everybody can use that, you know, is more sort of like an external API. And I think there was an action taken at that time. I'm not sure if there's been any further update on that, to see what those open interfaces would look like and how the ONU adapters, or do we even need an ONU adapter for customization? And if we do, how that open interface is going to look like, and how they interface towards other platform components, say, for example, database and, you know, logging and all that kind of stuff, right? So how would that be? Is there some kind of a document that lists that?
No, not at this time, because actually outside of the OMCI frame generation, the communication channel, there's pretty much nothing. There's actually no ME database capability yet, or a task runner, or how best to define, you know, a series of tasks or steps, you know, a state machine to actually run. So that's actually listed as action items throughout this iterate, you know, through different iterations. And I've got a suggested schedule. One of the things I do want to do is make sure that we have like a minimal number of interfaces into the class to try to keep it as simple as possible, since I think that might help facilitate making an external interface for containerized OpenOMCI easier.
The reason I asked that is also because it has implication of horizontal scalability and also high availability. So there probably is a you know, technology of choice there that we want to use, and it's when you talk about, you know, it being a microservice, you know, a containerized deployment, then we have to be much more aware of what would be the right thing to use in that particular case. And we had some discussion about this in the context of containerized adapters that are applicable here as well. So that's why I was just wondering, should we kind of do that together along with that, or is that completely isolated? And do we, I mean, we don't want to be doing something completely different for OpenOMCI, because it has, if you're going to run it as a microservice, it's going to have the same exact implications as, you know, running adapters as microservices as well. So that's my only comment, to see if we can synergize some of those efforts.
Yep. No, I agree that. So sorry, the action item have not been captured very well during the lockdown. But I think thanks for reminding us about this. I do think if the containerization in the 2.0 affecting many things, we should have a collaborated effort try to address both, right? So, okay.
Yeah.
You know, when Srisha, when you're saying this, I write down Brigade. I think that should be a separate effort we need to work in some way.
Sure.
As the team.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a good idea, but we have to work through it, and that's definitely should be our goal as soon as possible, to be able to run them as separate services and not having to run them along with the core.
Yep.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'll keep that in mind as we progress with this, and of course, my main intention is trying to get at least the minimum viable product out by the end of March. So that's with resources, that's always a very hard task to perform.
Yes,
so.
sure. Yeah. So for the end of March, you would still like to tackle the containerization, or for the end of March, you still think that this would run as a part of the core? What's your plan?
Probably just as part of the core in the ONU. Since some of these things, you know, during like the actual creation of a MIB synchronizer, you know, doing mid downloads, watching for attribute value changes, all that, and feeding that into a framework that we can run it as a task as needed. I think that might be an iterative process of designing that. So trying to couple that in with being it containerized from the start or by March is probably too aggressive to do.
Okay.
So I think we'll probably have a little bit of a learning experience here. Plus also, if it runs as an ONU task, then perhaps each person responsible for the ONU device adapters can test it on their specific vendor ONUs and provide good feedback. So maybe that'll encourage some of that. So, well,
I see the initial task. I think, yeah, we agree on that. We discussed that during the lockdown. Okay, good.
Okay, and I got rid of the really ugly block diagram that I had and tried to provide a little bit simpler one with arrows sort of showing some of the communication of what I hope to have within the 1.3 framework.
So how would you draw, like, if I'm sorry, I'm just trying to learn here, Chip, if you were to draw the OpenOMCI, like a block here, where exactly are the boundaries? Do you have it?
Pretty much everything below the vendor device adapter.
And I assume the ME database as well, right?
Yeah, it's part of the OpenOMCI, but external.
Okay.
And probably, obviously some things, like the ME database, the device adapters will need to do queries to it after mid upload to get information. So there's an API to it. So it'd be nice to have something that simplifies and abstracts the database a little bit, specific to MEs that make the code much more readable and a little bit more built-in error checking.
So, and the reason you have the vendor on your device adapter up at the top is for customizations, is that right?
Well, that's just basically to show where the tie-in is. So for one thing, OpenOMCI will need to send and receive frames through the iAdapter interface for the that the ONU owns. So when the OMCI communication channel needs to transmit a frame, he needs to go to the ONU's handler and do a proxy send. Likewise, the ONU device adapter, when it receives a proxied ONU message from the OLT, he'll need to forward it down to the communication channel for decode.
Okay. So that could potentially be, I guess, if it was standardized, we didn't have to do that. Is that correct? If we had okay.
Yeah, but it was.
So
it was
how? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, if it was more standalone, so, and we'd have to. The thing is if it becomes a containerized application, that communication that normally the ONU is doing to the OLT, figure out how to separate that cleanly.
Sure. Yeah, I think we should separate that without having to go to the. Yeah, I agree. So what about the customization? How exactly is the customization handled? I saw in your previous slide you mentioned that there's going to be a base class that would take care of providing some hooks to do customizations.
Yeah, and that's basically initially with it as part of the learning phase of the ONU, as if it's built in the ONU device adapter. So as we create the task runner, or hopefully pretty much a manager class, you should be able to derive from that, and in your initialization override some of the capabilities. So what I would see is that if you instantiated the OpenOMCI framework, it would have predefined what the task runner class is, what the communication channel is, and then if you derive from that, you can basically overload those functions and provide either your own capabilities or small customizations, on the communication channel.
So as a part of this framework, can you hear my echo back? As a part of this framework, I'm hearing that you'll also have some sort of an orchestration of the OMCI, like what you call frames here or messages towards the ONU. So if I have to customize that, how would I do that? Because that would be specifically
within each task. So
Okay.
what I saw is basically an OMCI task. One example is doing the initial MIB upload. So that would be a defined set of a very simple state machine that's given to the task runner, and it basically has control of the communication channel until it runs to completion. And if a specific ONU needs operating in a different manner, they could basically either provide their own task to perform that functionality, or omit it and do it wholly within the device adapter as individual commands.
Okay, so what you're saying is that if we are happy, for example, with the task runner that's provided in the OpenOMCI library, we use it as is, or we override it with yet another task runner inside probably the vendor ONU device adapter that probably takes over and does what we need to do.
Well, probably in the actual task itself. I wouldn't really see the task runner being modified greatly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That way, because and initially, for some ONUs, during say MIB uploads, you obviously don't want to be able to ever do sets, but some ONUs may not allow get operations during an upload. So initially, the task runner will only run a single task until it's complete. Maybe perhaps in the future, or a certain ONU could do multiple ones. We might want to modify the task runner at that time.
So the task runner is part of the 1.3?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure as we go through and start implementing this, especially in trying to do a service definition for high-speed internet, I think we'll probably have to get a lot of collaboration and look on exactly how this operates, because I think that'll probably be the most difficult task, or the one that varies most between ONUs.
Right. No, yeah, like you said, I believe there will be lessons learned, but any participant has good OMCI experience, please chime in so we can address potential issue as early as we can. Okay, next.
Okay, and this is just my initial guess at a possible rollout of features within OpenOMCI, and of course, Sean, you're the PO, so change or modify that, and of course, based on resources available.
I'm in the post office. I'm the post office.
Yeah, you're the product owner, so we do the features and you accept them and prioritize them. So.
No, I just leave it to do all the work.
Okay, but since we're closing up on end of sprint 1, part of that is, of course, what I sent out before I went on vacation on the communication channel and the ME frame discussions. I was seeing that occurring during sprint 1, and I've also gone through the entity class and compared that with the version 3 ATT OpenOMCI specification, and I've done there's quite a bit of corrections in it. So I'll probably check that in. I think Girish and I both have outstanding Garrett that needs to be resolved before I can check this in. But it basically changes some of the attributes, and some of the MEs are now mandatory, a few are deprecated, and also I've added the capability to do some constraints within the definitions of the attributes that should help us keep a consistent view in the database once we get to actually doing the database.
Chip, I think you actually have one more week before we close out sprint 1.
Oh, we do? I thought sprint 1 closed tomorrow.
We'd had a previously proposed schedule, I think, that was closer to this, and things were shifted a little bit and now wrapped up and split into 4 sprints.
Okay.
So I can
Okay.
talk to you about that separately, but that might help at least for sprint 1.
Okay. Well, yeah, we can probably move a little bit more into sprint 1 now and move it around, but this is just a basic breakout, so I guess I was absent.
And Chip, sorry I have not offered that earlier.
Okay.
The entity class cleanup, the entity class cleanup, I think those are the things, basically just doing the comparison, right? So that's something, we, AT&T can help. So
Oh.
Yeah,
I've actually finished that.
Okay, I'm not saying anything.
Believe me, it is very tedious. So the more eyes that look at it, the better. But I think we've got to start.
Okay, yeah, we could have helped on that one. So
okay. And but this is basic rollout, and I guess the other thing we can do since we're in 4 sprints, try to figure out if there are good points where we can do any kind of feature demos. So I have not thought through that, but if people can think about what they might want to see as a demo, that might be some good goals that we can shoot for.
That sounds good, because I would like to have a chance for us to do a few demos on the Thursday calls, most likely.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chip.
And as you also see, there's places both when like the ME database, I'd like to try to write something up and provide some examples and give that out to the community so that we can have some time. And of course, we can always go back and refactor code, but if I want to try to get as much information out ahead of time before implementation as I can. So
when you list the initial Broadcom ONU DA support.
Yeah, I guess Garish has already got some of that in there, so I just didn't want to volunteer people's time. I was hoping someone would have done it last week, but you know how things go.
Okay, maybe we can talk to you regarding to what kind of help or what kind of tasks need to be done.
Yeah.
If that's not coding, immediate coding, then we can definitely do it too.
Okay.
And
okay.
all this work. Let me ask a question now. Since Sam is here, all this work would that require Broadcom software changes or things like that on the ONU side?
Yeah, because one of the way, actually, it really depends on how everyone does all the communications, because everyone based theirs initially off the Broadcom ONU, and it runs on this simple queue of received messages, and that won't really support OMCI as we need it. So yeah, yes, there are changes in the Broadcom ONU, but I think they can be done in steps.
Well, I guess the question is there going to be, I'm sorry. I thought the question was more if there's going to be any change driving the ONU software itself, is not the adapter. Yeah.
Oh.
Right.
Yeah, that needs clarifying. Yeah, I think that was the question: is what has to change actually in the ONU? And Chip, you were referring to the Broadcom ONU adapter in Volta. So what do you expect on the ONU side? Does anything have to change there as a result of this?
Well, it's probably just about the functionality, if it actually supports the MEs and the attributes that we need to implement a high-speed internet service.
And one thing is, to satisfy both AT&T and I'm just using this as an example now, AT&T and Deutsche Telekom, our use case example, right? So we are doing the PBIT mapping and then creating multiple GEM ports, and multiple GEM port will be mapped into the same TCON. And they have a separate TCON for the OMCI. So in that sense, if we want to support that model, and I would say that those sort of tied up with your OMCI work also, right? And I think that PP mapping to the different GEM port, that will also require the Broadcom software changes. Is that correct? Or just the adapter?
It's probably just mainly in the adapter, because I mean we're passing traffic on the TNW through the Broadcom device adapter and as well as the ATRAN, and I'm sure most other people are passing data, so they can't. The fact that you can set up a high-speed internet connection through the OMUs, I think shows that we have at least some base OMCI capability already.
So basically in phase 1, I think in 1.3, if we ignore the PB mapping, then what? Okay.
Yeah, well, to do the PB mapping, we have to have a way to pass that information down. So I think that's work outside of just the device adapters, right?
Okay.
Somehow we have to configure that capability.
But wouldn't the ONU software need to be able to support that mapping?
Yes, if we need to use that.
Okay. So since I did have a conversation with Broadcom yesterday, and that's why I requested support to come in, just in case, because right now, as I actually Jamel was mentioned that it's not that many ONU out there that support XGS-PON today. So I think most of available, like TNW or Alpha Network, they both using the Broadcom reference design. That's why I do request Broadcom more closer engagement on this one.
Yeah, and it's also what OMCI stack are they using too, right? I don't know what the extent of the Broadcom-based OMCI stack is as far as supporting all the MEs that AT&T needs. I don't know if Sam could comment on that.
Yeah, sure. So for the high-speed internet service, all the MEs that required on the ONU side are supported by Broadcom OMCI stack. And different operators may have different traffic models or different service models. For example, like one case is multiple GEM ports mapped to one T count, or the other case is one GEM port, one T count, or one queue. Those are mainly the differences of the OMCI MIP or the OMCI provision model from the ORT side, meaning for those different traffic models or the service models, the ONU adapter will send different OMCI messages. But on the ONU side, it will just receive those sequences and adapt. So for now, I don't see there's a need to change the ONU software to support the high-speed internet service.
Okay. But later on, if we want to introduce the multicast, then would that be different?
Multicast is supported, but there could be some other things, maybe like more sophisticated QoS may require some update to the ONU software.
Okay. Thanks, Sam. I'm but I think as a community, we definitely would like to request additional help from the Broadcom side, should any requests coming up. And I do also want to make sure we give Broadcom enough time to react to if there's something need to change. But we may have to find out a communication channel from the community back into the Broadcom. And Broadcom, please feel free to participate the TST calls. I think that'll be very helpful also. Anybody has any comment? I don't want to target Broadcom here, but I think it's good they're here. So I do want to make sure the TST communication with Broadcom will be open and transparent.
Sean, from the Broadcom ONU perspective, one useful input would be the database mentioned in this slide, as well as the OMCI message sequences that the ONU adapter on the ORT side may send. Once Broadcom has this information, we can understand what the adapter on the ORT side is going to do and if there's any gap.
Okay. Chip or Ken or Sean, do we have those information available?
Well, we can probably generate it for MIB uploads, software downloads, if for some of the base functionality to start with. But I don't think we'll actually have that until we sit down, for each ONU and iron out how high-speed internet actually has to sequence.
But what about today? Okay, on the.
Well, I mean, we have those today because we're pretty much running a script that runs the MEs, one at a time and sets them up hard-coded. So we do have that, but it'd be nice if we could, between adapters, try to reconcile that to maybe either one or a few common sequences.
So Sam, do you want something we have today or something in develop?
We can take a look at both.
Okay. I think I will go back and then see what we have today. We don't have to address it right now, but I think that's a Broadcom request. Okay. Chip, back to you.
Sean, there would be one other consideration. I think Broadcom could deal with the ONU firmware that goes into the reference ONU, but with Alpha, TNW, and others, there seems to be a varying, in our experience, there's varying between what is actually supported in those. It looks like Alpha is pretty close. What we've seen on that Alpha ONU is it's pretty much matching exactly what Broadcom provides, but TNW might have some difference in there. So what I'm saying is maybe there might want to be some representation for ONU vendors as well to get, what are they going to actually support, because, there will be a difference. Just because Broadcom implements it doesn't mean that everybody else will.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
Chip?
Okay, well, that's everything I had to present today. If anyone, I guess on other adapters, need any help with the communication channel or what I'm doing with the ME frames outside of what I've already posted, please send me an email or give me a phone call. I'm here to help you on that. And I'll work with you, Julie and Sean, to get the sprints lined out and maybe corrected on this slide.
Yeah, so you have a particular directory on the wiki having all your material, right?
Yeah, I've got one out there. I can just transfer this over there and maybe do a feature rollout page if needed.
So the feature, yeah, that's probably something yeah, because I think that like Julie said, there's only 4 sprints right now, so each one has 3 weeks, I think. So, okay. So that I think this page definitely needs to be updated.
Right.
Okay.
So Sean, I suspect we still have the outdated roadmap on the wiki. So yes, we'll take a look at that later and get that corrected. Is that the case?
Yeah, Yuan have been bugging me on that.
Oh, okay.
But I have to thank Julie. You know, she's really actually pretty sick. She's taking sick leave, and then today, but she's hosting this. So thank you, Julie.
Not a problem. I couldn't miss the OMCI part. So, so any last questions for Chip today?
Chip, this is Ken. Just a quick question. In your previous slides, on the architecture diagram that you have, I see you have a number of tasks over there. Do you know how intensive those tasks will be in terms of processing? Will there be numerous tasks running at the same time, taking a lot of CPU cycles?
No, I see each one is basically a way to orchestrate the ME sequences. Mm-hmm. So I would only see, you know, within for a particular ONU, I only see initially only one task running at a time. But
okay.
You'd be able to schedule them for based on a priority, so that you can submit them. Perhaps you want a heartbeat that just basically runs and checks up time. That could be submitted as a priority. But if you need to do an alarm synchronization, you can submit that. When the current task finishes, if it's whatever's the highest priority would run next. So there'll have to be some coordination on how that actually works.
Okay.
What all the tasks are.
Yeah. The main reason I'm asking, it's I know the goal is currently to put everything in the same Volta vCore container, and by doing that, that's all right. It's a very good learning experience. Yeah. By doing that, though, you will have to write twisted Python. So this will all be twisted. If you go on an outside container, you can choose the language that you want, and a language like Go tends itself way better for multitasking than twisted Python. So I just want just a word of caution, like if eventually if you think that many of those tasks will require a lot of handling of concurrency, then you may think a little bit about going forward, whether you want to stick with twisted Python or going with a language like Go.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, thanks.
So I agree with Ken, and also to add to that point, right now I think you mentioned, Chip, that the task would be at any point one per ONU. I don't think that's a valid assumption. Maybe for the first, I guess, prototype, it's okay, but I would think that you have to do parallel ONU maybe uploads, parallel ONU synchronizations, and OMCI messages. So concurrency will be a big deal there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, currently the OpenOMCI framework runs within the ONU device handler itself. So coordination between, I don't think we have that issue to start with. It will once we go to containerized, where the container could handle multiple ONUs at the same time.
Yeah, but again, like Ken said, it's all Python and twisted, and right now it has its own limitations even when you're running within the core. So
yeah, and I've actually, in the communication channels, I have quite a bit of statistics that are extracted to watch that, but so far I haven't really seen really much any demand whatsoever out of the CPU. So.
Okay, fair enough. It was just a question because when you transition, if you constantly you have code in twisted Python, chances are maybe you will stick with twisted Python.
Yeah, yeah. I think with the twisted Python and running this way, it's very fast to prototype, and then we can, if we do go to a separate container, then we can look at where any bottlenecks might be and use the appropriate technology to fix it.
Okay, fair enough. Thanks.
I really like the discussion like this, when the meeting has ideas throwing back and forth. I think that's a really good meeting. It makes my whole day very good. when we have a meeting, just one person talk, that makes the whole day very dull. So, I think I'm too involved with this project now. I think that's my conclusion. So Julie, back to you.
Okay, I think we're at the top of the hour, so probably last call for questions. Any last comments for Chip?
Okay. Not for Chip.
Okay. So I'll get to you in 1 second then, Sean. So
okay.
Just wanted to encourage everyone to feel free to use Volta Discuss if you want to have some more dialogue since we're out of time today. And then Chip, thank you for your presentation. And Sean, I'll now let you save. I'm not sure what you're saying next, but I'll let you have the floor.
No, I was saying I'm in contacting the Telefonica and see whether they can do a presentation next Thursday. So I have not have heard back from them. But
okay.
Thanks
so
everybody.
Potentially we will have that next Thursday, but TBD.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And I think that is it for today. So I will go ahead and stop the recording.